Hey everyone, and welcome to my latest YouTube video. This is my March wrap up, so I'm just going to go through briefly the books that I read in March. I'm also going to mention one that I read in February because February was really busy with work. For some reason I read very little in February. I reread a book of short stories which I've sort of forgotten to bring down here with me, but that was more a work thing. And I also read this book, which is called Poor Things by Alistair Gray. As you can see now, it's winner of the Whitbread Novel Award and the Guardian Fiction Prize. It was a book I saw recommended on Jen Campbell's YouTube channel. I think she's going to actually be doing a video on this book in April, so I'll be very interested to see what she has to say about it because she says it's one of her favourite books, and I get a lot of recommendations from Jen's channel, and I think that we share a lot of the same taste in a lot of books. So I was really looking forward to this book. It's sort of a Frankenstein type story where a woman is brought back to life. Not to give away spoilers and things, but it's yeah, she's basically dead, but she's brought back to life by this doctor, and it's quite an interesting novel. I don't know, I'm not quite sure why I didn't like it as much as I didn't, but I really was so glad to finish this book, and I only finished it really because I did sort of want to see how it was going to end, but I also I want to see what Jen's going to say about it in April, so I thought I should read the whole book so I can, so I know what she's talking about. Now, to be fair, the bits of the book that I like are the beginning and the ending. The middle section of the book, which is pretty much most of the book, actually consists of letters. So I'm going to give a bit of a spoiler here because I feel like I have to explain it a little bit. So this woman is brought back to life, and the person that brings her back to life uses the brain of a child, basically, and puts this brain into the woman who's called Bella, or Belle, and basically then she is very immature. She's, the child's brain in a woman's body, and she's learning things quite quickly, but she's, a very immature brain. And the story is anyway that she kind of falls in love with his friend, but then she elopes with somebody else because she wants to get some experience of life. And basically the middle section of the book is, the first part of this middle section are letters from the man that she elopes with and his version of events, and the second section is letters from Belle and her version of how things went. And I really find those, for some reason, just really tough going. I don't know, I just didn't care about the characters. I didn't like any of the characters in the book. I did find it quite funny and easy to read at the beginning, and as I say, I prefer the bit of the beginning and the end which aren't the letters. So maybe if the whole book had been written in that way, I would have enjoyed it more. There are interesting things which are mentioned throughout the book, and I think I can sort of tell the things that Jen's going to pick apart in it. About society, how society acts, towards women, towards people who are, poor, towards, people that are mistreated for various reasons. And Belle, kind of through learning everything from a child's, and with this childlike point of view, I suppose, draws your attention to things. But I didn't feel like I learned anything from the book, and not that you have to learn things from novels, but it just really disappointed me, and I was really glad to finish it. It's definitely not a favourite of mine, and I spent too long talking about it because it just meant to give a really brief overview. So that's, I think, probably why I read so little in February, because I was trawling through that book and trying to get it finished, and I really didn't enjoy it. Anyway, moving into March, the first book now is one that I might do a separate review on, and it is Tom Hanks' Uncommon Type, which is a book of short stories by, yes, Tom Hanks, the Tom Hanks. Now, yeah, I'm going to do a separate review in this. I don't want to talk too much about it right now, but basically I went into this thinking, I'd seen quite a lot of messages on Facebook whenever the book was published from other writers saying that, oh, it's not that great, it's the usual story of a celebrity getting published, and I was quite defensive because, who doesn't like Tom Hanks, and I thought, well, I'm sure it's not that bad, and, give him a chance. So I went into this very open-minded, actually went into it really wanting to like it, and long story short, I persevered until halfway through the book, and it wasn't for me, and I think I'll go into it in a little, I think I will do a little quick book review of it where I'll explain why it really wasn't for me, but it didn't grip me. I didn't love the writing. I mean, the writing is fine, it's just, especially the short stories, I kind of like the writing to be more, I don't know, beautiful or different, or I don't know, it just didn't hook me. So I'm sorry, Tom Hanks, but it's very rare that I don't finish a book, and that it just wasn't for me. Now, that was the second book in a row this year where I was really glad to put it down. So to make sure that I really enjoyed the next book I read, I decided to read a book by an author who I love and who I just knew it would be a real page turner, because I really needed a good book after reading two not so great books. So I picked Maggie O'Farrell, and this is one of her earlier novels, My Lover's Lover. So it doesn't really give very much away in the back of the book. Basically just it says the main character Lily moves into her new boyfriend Marcus's flat. She finds the dress of his ex-girlfriend. He's been quite shifty in not really explaining what happened with his ex-girlfriend, why they split up, or why she left is a better way of putting that. So yeah, it doesn't give much away in the blurb, which I liked, because so much happens in Maggie O'Farrell books anyway, and the characters are always so really well written. And again, it was a real page turner, and I'm really glad that I didn't read the oh yes, and it's a signed copy. I was very pleased to find that it was a signed copy when I opened it up. But all of these reviews, like praise for the novel at the start of the book, I sometimes read these before I read the book, and I'm glad that I didn't this time, because there's some spoilers in that, and that would have really bugged me, because there is an element of the book which was totally unexpected, and I'm obviously not going to tell you as it's a spoiler, but yeah, there was a side to this book which I really didn't expect, and that just made it even more interesting. So top marks for Maggie O'Farrell as always. Next up, again, I wanted to make sure I read a book that I knew I was going to like. I mean, it's rare that I don't like the books that I have, because I tend to pick them up because I either know the authors or they just sound really good and I'm pretty sure that I'm going to like them. But after those other two books, yeah, I wanted to keep reading good ones. So I picked up The Timekeeper by Mitch Albom. So I've read Mitch Albom's other books. The Five People You Meet in Heaven was the first one. Can't remember the other ones because my memory is terrible. Have a Little Faith was another one, and Tuesdays with Maury. So this one really intrigued me because it's about Father Time, who basically he created time, and he is then banished to a cave by God, you know, as a punishment for creating time. So he basically spends centuries, thousands of years in this cave, and then one day he's sent back to Earth and his mission is kind of to help two people understand and value the concept of time. And one of these is an old man who's approaching death, and he's trying to extend his time on Earth. He's in his 80s, he's dying from whatever disease, cancer or something it is. The other person is a young girl, and she is trying to end her life because she's had a really horrible experience, or not a very nice experience, with the guy that she likes. And so one of them is trying to lengthen his time, the other is trying to shorten it, and Father Time drops down in the midst of all this, and he has to try and make them see the value of time and make them appreciate it. So I love stuff like this. I do like time travelling things. It's not a time travelling book as such. Well, it sort of is because he comes from the past, but yeah, it's really interesting, and Mitch Albom's books always make you think about life, and they just always offer really interesting perspectives, and I really enjoyed this. I flew through it really quickly. So I read 9 books in March, and this is why, because I read some really good books which were real page turners. So I definitely recommend that. So the next 2 books are by the same author, and it is The Secret Diary of Hendrik Gruen, 83¼ years old, and then the sequel, which is On the Bright Side. So these are 2 books. I actually got this book for my mother's partner at Christmas, as a Christmas present, because he works in a care home, and I thought, rightly or wrongly, that I suppose in hindsight thinking buying somebody a book about a place where they work, he would either love it or hate it, but thankfully he loved it, and my mum read it too and loved it and recommended it to me. And then I got this with one of my book vouchers at the New Year and gave it to them as well, and they loved it. So I thought I better read them because I borrowed it off them at the New Year. I started off reading it, and I wasn't really in the mood, I think, for reading a book which is written in diary entries. So the first few pages I thought, I really want to like this, but I'm not quite sure if I do. And then I very, very quickly started to like it, to the point where when I finally finished the second book, I was quite sad to say goodbye to Hendrik Gruen and his senior citizen friends. So basically, it's about this guy called Hendrik Gruen who lives in a care home in Amsterdam. So he's quite mobile. He's 83¼ years old, and he begins writing this diary just to kind of keep himself, you know, just to keep something to focus him on, and to keep him healthy and, you know, keep his mind active. And he starts this club in the care home called the Old But Not Dead Club, which I love the idea of. So basically, it is funny because he describes things, you know, about a lot of the residents really old. They're always griping about things, you know, things are better in the old days, and they're talking about their ailments all the time. They just sit there all day, they don't do anything. He's more mobile, and he's just there because, as we learn little bits about his life throughout the book, but really that comes much later on. So we do eventually learn that the reason why he's in the care home is because, well, he lost his home basically, so he's able to take care of himself, but he's ended up here, and he's, you know, quite independent. So he starts this Old But Not Dead Club, and some of the other people of the care home, like, who are like him, have a zest for life, who are still kind of active and doing things. And basically they organise little trips. They each take a turn to organise a day out. And they go out for dinner and do things like that. And yeah, it's really fun. But to be honest, the reviews on both of the books say that it's, you know, it's very funny and touching, and it is funny. I mean, it is humorous. With regards to what he's saying about the residents and everything, but to be honest, I find it kind of more poignant because, you know, at the end of the day, it's set in a care home, and, you know, quite a few people die in it because they're quite old. Some of the main characters die as we go along. Not to give you spoilers or anything, but, you know, it's about very old people, so you can sort of expect that. But it's, you know, it's quite a melancholy book, I think. It's not, you know, you do laugh at it, there are funny bits, but I wouldn't say it's a laugh out loud thing, because you laugh with them, yes, but yeah, I just find it just a really sweet book and very, very poignant. I think that's the best way of describing it. I wouldn't describe it as like a comedy novel in any way. It's not poking fun at the care homes or anything. It's just a really honest portrayal, I think, of them. Like, I used to work as a speech and language therapist, and I spent some time with people in care homes, so I kind of know a little bit of what they're like, and it all seemed very realistic to me. And also an interesting thing is that Hendrik Gruen, this is the artist's picture of him. I thought it was a real person, but actually it's a pseudonym, so nobody knows who Hendrik Gruen is. It's actually, yeah, I'm not quite sure who the author is, and that's quite intriguing to me. In the second book, on the bright side, he does say that he's starting to write a novel, and I know that there is a novel due out from Hendrik Gruen, so it's fun the way they play with that, but it kind of frustrates me as well, because I'm not quite sure who Hendrik Gruen is. I kind of want him to be this little man. I want him to be the octogenarian writer, but he could be somebody my age. He could be somebody that used to work in a care home. I don't know. In my head, I want him to be that little old man. So yeah, we'll see. That's quite a fun thing. Anyway, moving on to the 8th book that I read in March. Again, this is one that I found through Jen Campbell's channel, and it's called Through the Woods by Emily Carroll. So this is a graphic novel. I don't really read graphic novels, not because I don't know why, it's not something that I sort of forget about them. I mean, I did used to read comics when I was young, but so yeah, I saw this and it sounded really good. It's 5 sort of gothic tales. If you like Tim Burton, Neil Gaiman, stuff like that, I think you're going to like this. The artwork is lovely, so let me see if I can just show you. There's the opening bit. I mean, there's just lots of really lovely, well, I say lovely, I mean, the artwork is really, really good, but it's kind of freaky as well. There's one that I really like at the back. So that's just an idea of some of the beautiful artwork. So basically, it's 5 short stories, graphic stories, obviously illustrated, and they are very, very creepy. And I read this book quite late at night. I read it in one sitting, so obviously you can read it very quickly. So again, that's why I've got through so many books this month, because some of them were just page turners and very quick and easy to read. But yeah, it's interesting. Like, I don't really get scared by books very easily. I think it's because I read so much horror books whenever I was a teenager. But these are quite creepy, and I think it shows with the graphic novel, because I'm not used to reading a graphic novel. I think the illustrations, it shows you the effect of good illustration and good writing together, because I think when you read it all at once, you're consuming so much and you're taking it all in, and it is creepy, but you just keep going. And it actually, yeah, well, basically I did have weird dreams that night, and quite creepy sort of dreams. And I totally blame this book, in a good way though, but it shows that it's, yeah, if you like creepy stories, I'm not going to tell you what the stories are about because they're quite short, and I'll read you the back of the book actually, although it doesn't really tell you very much here either. From the macabre imagination of award-winning comic creator Emily Carroll, 5 mysterious and chilling stories which follow journeys into and out of, the eerie abyss. So yeah, come take a walk in the woods and see what awaits you there. I recommend it if you really like creepy stories and say the artwork's really good, and graphic novels, if you haven't tried them before, then this is a good one to start with, I think. Now, sorry pup. The next book is this one, this beautiful, beautiful book, The Lost Words by Robert Macfarlane and Jackie Morris. So this is a book I saw last year and I meant to get it for ages, and yeah, I finally got around to buying it. It is the most beautiful book, described as a spell book. Oh, it's so big that it's quite hard to show you. But basically the idea is that children are growing up these days, a lot of them not knowing the common names of wildlife, of plants, and it's just trying to remind people and teach children and adults as well of these, so that they don't become lost words, because some of these words aren't in the dictionary anymore. I'm sure you've seen all the newspaper reports about that. So it's just really, really pretty book, beautifully illustrated, and has these gorgeous poems beside it, besides the artwork. I'm trying to show you examples, but they're also nice. I don't know why I don't just yeah, here's one of the heron. So yeah, I'll read you one. This is heron. Okay. Here haunts heron, huge hinged heron, grey-winged weapon, eked from iron and reeked from blue and beaked with steel, heron statue seeks eel. Rock still at Weirsill, stone still at Weirsill, dead still at Weirsill, still at Weirsill, until eelless at Weirsill, heron magically unstatues. Out of the water creaks long legs heron, old priest heron. From here on in, all sticks and planks and rubber bands, all clanks and clicks and rusty squeaks. Now heron hauls himself into flight, early aviator, heavy freighter, and with steady wing beats boosts his way through evening light to roost. They're really beautiful poems. They're actually like quite tongue twistery, but just the way they're written, they're just really, really nice. And the start, if I can show you, the start of each line begins with, it spells out the name of the animal or the plant that it's talking about. So yes, that's a beautiful book, and I recommend you get that if you like nature and wildlife. So those are the books that I read in March. This probably turned into quite a long wrap up as usual, but I did read a few more books than anticipated. So if you've read any of these books, let me know what you think, or if you have any recommendations for me, let me know what you think. As I say, I might do a little short book review on the Tom Hanks short stories and explain a little further why they weren't quite for me. But in the meantime, thanks for watching this video, and I will see you next time. Okay, bye!